Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I am your host, Mystery Red. This is my disclaimer. This beta read in concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today we're doing a beta read and concrete of a piece of a memoir. We're looking at chapter 9 for No Ant 5039. I just plugged in my microphone. Always good to connect your equipment after you've gotten started. Shows you how organized I am. And we are on chapter 9 today. So I'm going to include links to my other reads for Ant. And I'm reading for a couple different people right now. So I'm like, which person am I reading for? And it's No Ant 5039. I always call them Ant. And then I also read for someone called Alternative P, and I call them P. So everyone gets an abbreviation from me. But anyway, we are on chapter 9 this time. I'll have links in the description for all of the other reads I've done. I want to note that I did not read chapter 2, and the read I did for chapter 4 was private. So otherwise, there'll be links to 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and this is 9. So here we go. Chapter 9. Dear Old Dad. Reliving my memory of riding next to you on our way into town, I picture the stretch of highway lined with sound walls. The leaves of the trailing vines growing across the wall had skipped their usual shades of yellow and orange, turning straight from green to red. 14 years old and pushed into responsibilities uncharacteristic of most teens, I was outraged by Mom's cruel and intimidating behavior from the previous night. I know you heard me say, I hate her. She's a monster. Eyes on the road. You didn't flinch, but I suspect even at present, with your memories deteriorating, moments like these still infiltrate your mind to haunt you. I'm going to pause because there was things I wanted to note in the first paragraph, but I'm also inclined to want to keep reading, and so sometimes I have to stop myself. So let's go back here for a second, and I think we have a word echo on, on walls and wall. Reliving my memory of riding next to you on our way into town, I picture the stretch of highway lined with sound walls. Okay, the leaves of the trailing vines growing across the wall had skipped their usual shades of yellow and orange, turning straight from green to red. So yeah, I'm not sure what to suggest there. I'm just going to point out the echo and leave it to you to play with. That I did note it while I was reading, and it distracted me, but at the same time it was otherwise reading well, and so I kept going. So we're going to just note it and continue. Let's see. Dad, please, you have to leave her. There is nothing to stay for. You and me will go together, I begged. I'll talk to her. You've talked to her before. 2 nights ago, last Thursday, 100 times. She's not going to change. You have to leave her, I urged. Do it for me. My pleas met your silence, but the warm tears gaining speed down my cheeks were hopeful. Another year of car rides like this, and all notion of hope vanished. In fact, the tears did too. More alike than different from the vine-covered concrete barriers flanking the road, I absorbed her abusive bullying, slowly suffocating until I hardened. Let's see. I'm going to note the adverb, but I'm also going to let it go for right now. As long as we're not excessive, the use of it here is not, it's not bothersome. I'm not going to worry about it at this moment. If they start to pop up, then I'll take note. And also sometimes how they're used, sometimes in moderation, I'm just going to note that I noted it, and we're going to keep going. My memories are scattered and nonlinear, charged with messy emotions. As I try to deliver words to make sense of what's inside, I type 8 characters and erase 5. Since you loathed your father, I trust you know how I felt to carry that kind of hate. I never met your dad. He died young, and details have always been sparse. Sometimes I wonder how much of the story will go with you to your grave. Many pieces don't quite fit. Your religious upbringing banned alcohol, among many other things. So I could understand Grandpa's need for secrecy. What's surprising is you didn't ever notice he was drunk, but his autopsy at 52 years old revealed the cause of death was cirrhosis of the liver. Our lineage seems to support the theory that alcoholism is a family disease. I guess I carry the genetic makeup from both sides. Your features are etched in my mind. You have the liveliest blue eyes, framed by wild, bristling brows and soft indents like the creases in a well-worn map. Rounded glasses sit on full cheeks, and when you smile, there's a dimple that rivals those on the man in the moon. I'm going to turn off my alarm. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm also frustrated that the alarm kind of ruined it because it's reading so beautifully, and I love this description. Like, I love it. I love how you've got the liveliest blue eyes framed by wild bristling brows and soft indents like the creases in a well-worn map. It's just absolutely stunning. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So we're going to try it again. We're going to pick it up and see if I'm actually going to it is on do not disturb. I don't know why it rang anyway. Okay. Your features are etched in my mind. You have the liveliest blue eyes framed by wild bristling brows and soft indents like the creases in a well-worn map. Rounded glasses sit on full cheeks, and when you smile, there's a dimple that rivals those on the man in the moon. When you turned 37, I took my first breath. At this time, Lee and Scott were almost teenagers, and custody was shared with their mom. Do you ever feel like you missed out on their childhoods between driving 18-wheelers and the divorce? One thing was easy to see. I became the apple of your dancing eyes. So, all right, I'm going to interpret this, and if I get it correctly, then you hit your marks. So basically, you are from your dad's second marriage, and Lee and Scott, I'm guessing, are step siblings or half siblings from the first marriage. And as long as that all fits up with you, then you have given the right impression and hit your marks, and so we will continue on. I wrestle with the truth, the loyal love I have for you, and the anger that swells, making it hard to swallow in moments like this, when I allow myself to think about the dynamics that bind our family together. 6'1" with calloused hands like a gentle giant, you stood tall next to Mom. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones were invading pop culture as she was learning to walk. She just missed the Elvis era that nurtured your youth. You stand older, stronger, and larger, but docile and ineffective against her raging blackouts. Withdrawing into your blue leather recliner, you sank into submission. Maybe once or twice I saw you fight back in the heat of the moment. More often, you were quiet. Midway through my sophomore year of high school, you took a job a few hours north and moved in with Scott to get away from the increasing chaos. After I had been begging you to leave her and take me with you, it was a shattering grief that you went without me. Did you think I'd be okay? I wasn't okay. Far from it. On more than one occasion, I stole single-edge razors or X-Acto knives from the classroom on campus. In the old library building across from the study hall, there was a private single bathroom with green linoleum. I would spend my free period caught up with my secrets. Then I would tend to my in silence, roll up my uniform knee socks, and go grab a Jolly Rancher from the admin's office before my next class. I'm going to pause. I should have had a trigger warning. On this. I don't edit my videos, and so I'm kind of trying to figure out. I think I might put one in maybe the description. And maybe I don't know. I kind of want to put one in the title, but I also don't want to flag myself. So I'm not really sure what to do. Gotta contemplate that. Yeah, I gotta figure that out. Okay. Obviously, this topic does not bother me, but it could bother YouTube. I do not target my videos. I mark them as not for small people. So I'm just not really sure. Anyway, we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna worry about it later. Ultimately, we're getting our read done, and we'll deal with YouTube later. Countless times, I would get home from field hockey to find Mom face down on top of her covers, already passed out for the night. Chalk white water would bubble out at the lid and roll down the side of the metal pot as I cooked rice for my dinner. I would sprinkle frozen peas on top and eat over my books in a numbing loneliness, and these were the good nights. When Mom committed to attend treatment that following summer, 20 years ago now, you moved back home. Good thing, too, because your first heart attack really took you down a peg. Okay. So, I think you had more to say about his physical description than you had to say for him dealing with anything so far. Now we're coming to a break and we're going to continue reading, but it's just my reader musing is that he's been very passive and avoided situations and left you in a situation, which, ugh, I have opinions, but we'll keep those to ourselves and we'll withhold anything and we're just going to keep going with our read. The sweet, sharp aroma of lime always left a bitter taste on my fingers. How could something smell so good and taste so bitter? Still, I delighted in adding the wedge to your drink, perfecting the ratios of Tanqueray and tonic water, all in your favorite duck glass. Bubbles danced their way to the surface, jumping and popping over ice cubes with a faint hiss, and I felt proud to serve you your daily dose of happiness after a long day at work. A sixth-grade bartender of sorts. Not until 8th grade, when I went to sip from my water bottle in homeroom and spewed the offensive shock of bitter gin across my desk, did I realize how inappropriate my access to alcohol was. Rushing out the door, I grabbed your bottle by mistake. Gin was your signature drink for years. I was so surprised when you switched to bourbon. Weighing in at over 200 pounds, I will say it was rare to witness the booze going to your head. Only in those final years, when you would start the morning with Jim Beam and a splash of 7-Up in your water bottle, did you assume a sloppy happiness characteristic of drunks. Jolly is the first word that comes to mind when I picture you intoxicated. Maybe it was those aforementioned smiling eyes or your endearing humor. An April morning in 2020, you struggled to greet the day, head throbbing with every pulse, watching the walls tilt in the floor and feeling your knees go weak, anticipating upheavals from the surface that never came. From the kitchen table, I could hear you losing your stomach contents through the thin bathroom door. Your morning cup of coffee remained in the pot on this counter untouched while you passed the first 12 hours of detox in your lazy boy. You were as drunk as I had ever seen you the night before, but with your mind made up, you quit cold turkey then and there. The miracle to me is that you didn't experience seizures. Not yet, anyway. I moved out of state 1 year later. This is where the timeline gets blurry, but I know the specifics aren't important. You started drinking again in secret after 2 years of sobriety. Within days, you were back to chugging your bourbon before even feeding the dog. By June, your routine blood tests were flagged with urgent concerns, and by October, your blood platelet count dropped to 32 mcl. To put that in perspective, you were thousands of platelets per microliter of blood too low, running the risk it wouldn't coagulate. My phone was propped against an old wood crate, filled with books on my daughter's desk. I sat alone, watching through the FaceTime screen as your body convulsed with each sob, your entire belly heaving with the weight of your grief. Tears dropped onto your V-neck white t-shirt. You couldn't believe after 2 years you ever started up again. Now facing extreme risk of intestinal bleeding, brain hemorrhages, and large spleen, and a mass on your liver, you were cornered back into a life without alcohol, a life of sobriety. I am proud of you, you blubbered, stammering through sobs. You always had a knack for redirecting the conversation to deflect the focus off yourself. My eyes drifted from the screen to the watercolor painting of an elephant on the wall. Knots looped and tugged tight in my stomach. I wished one of my kids would have woken up and cried, offering me an excuse to sign off. It wasn't the compliment that made me uneasy, but this side of you reduced to chewing over your regrets. I kind of think this is fine, but I'm kind of inclined, I kind of want this to be its own to like start a new paragraph. I mean, it doesn't have to. It's just, I don't know why I feel that way. I don't know why, but I'm in my mind, I was already thinking, I think I'd start a new paragraph here. Almost maybe because you were like, okay, you were talking, but then, and it's still about him, but you're kind of redirecting it to how you viewed him. I don't know. It's probably a personal preference. I'm sure it's fine. I'm contemplating how much of this is almost like you observed him. And I mean that like from a reader, I don't feel as close here in this space as I did when I read the one with your mom. And I kind of think so far, I mean, we've not finished, but and maybe we should, and we'll muse over it after. I don't know. I also don't want to forget my thoughts, so I kind of am, I'm like letting it kind of roll around, but it's like, kind of like where you started in the car beside him. You were kind of on this journey, and at that moment you're together, and then you're asking him, let's get out of here. Why are we staying and putting up with this? But it's almost like either I wonder if he was drinking then. I mean, it because there's a little bit of time here where you kind of go back and forth and you kind of look. You seem present, and that you're looking, and then you're looking back, and you mention how inappropriate your access to alcohol was, and at what age, and so it kind of felt like it was a jump back there, and then back more to the present. But I followed it, but so far it just feels like you're observing him, like you're throughout this whole entire thing on all the interactions with him feel like an observation, like he wasn't doing anything. It doesn't seem like he did anything. It's not, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just, that's my impression. My reader impression is that he was passive and didn't do anything. He even left, and he didn't even fight for you. Like, he didn't even fight to try to take you with him, at least as far as you knew. It's like he didn't want any kind of fight at all. He just rolled along through it, choosing the easiest path, maybe. I'm not really sure. It just seems like you were an observer of him from a distance, and sometimes even right beside him. And then it almost seems here when he's crying, it's almost, he's kind of forced he's forced to be sober. And it's almost like his tears are him grieving that he won't be able to drink anymore. That's what my impression is of this paragraph. These are reader impressions. This is not anything. It is not anything judging anything. It is not any kind of suggestion. These are reader musings, reader thoughts. As I'm reading this, these are the feelings that I have picked up while I'm reading. These are the feelings I'm getting. My phone was propped against an old wood crate filled with books on my daughter's desk. I sat alone watching through FaceTime screen as your body convulsed with each sob. So he's weeping. He's weeping, and he's grieving. And it seems to me you couldn't believe after 2 years you ever started up again. So it's almost like, yeah, he's disappointed in himself that he started up, but he's faced with, oops, oh my goodness, is there an undo? Yes. He's faced with these things: extreme risk of intestinal bleeding, brain hemorrhage, an enlarged spleen, and a mass on his liver. So he's cornered into a life without alcohol. He's being forced into a life of sobriety. And it almost feels like that's what he's actually crying for, is that he won't be able to drink anymore. Which, there's so many things to say, to think about that, but this is just what I've got when I'm reading. One writing suggestion: now facing extreme risk of intestinal bleeding, brain hemorrhage, enlarged spleen, and a mass on your liver, you were cornered into a life without alcohol. I just suggest taking the word back out of there. It's one of those distancing words. It's probably, if you were in some of the grammar things, it'll recommend that you take it out as well. We're going to keep going. And let's see. He said he's proud of you, and that basically tears you up even more. Okay, here we go. You watch us raising your grandbabies sober. Okay. You watch us raising your grandbabies sober. Something about this line isn't working for me, but we're going to come back to it. My children have never smelled alcohol on my breath. As you reflect on your own life crawling to its inevitable end, you admitted you're plagued by the comparisons, the things you didn't see back then, and most of all, the actions you didn't take. Okay, I think this might be you've. And I think if you I'm just going to play with it to see if it does. I'm thinking it's going to take away that mark on admitted, and it does. Okay. Oh, well, I'm just going to leave that and see. Yeah, all right. As you reflect on, you watch us raising your grandbabies sober. why, there's nothing wrong with this line. Why does it raise, maybe? You've watched us raise your grandbabies sober. Grandchildren, grandbabies, interchangeable, personal opinion. You've watched us raise your grandchildren, grandbabies, whatever, sober. Okay. It might be the raising that's distracting me. It might be that. It might be you've watched us raise your grandbabies sober. It's not flagging anything here. I mean, I don't know if my Grammarly is still working. I did have it on here and I think it messed up in an update. So I don't know if it's still working. It kind of says right there and it did catch that. I don't know. It could be a personal opinion. So we're just going to keep going. I should have done so much more to protect you. I wish I could go back. Okay. We're going to keep going. I wasn't going to let you off the hook, but I couldn't bear to let you continue either. On any number of occasions when Mom was commenting on my weight, hair, I think we need a comma here because we're going to keep going. So like right there. Or if a color made me look seasick, you could have interjected. When she reminded me how she wished I was never born, your countering, but I'm so glad you were, would have softened the pain. And when she expressed she wished she'd never, she wished she, ugh, I think it's the she. I think it's the she. Yep, we got 1, 2, 3, and a 4, 5. Okay, we got lots of she's. And I think that's messing me up. I'm going to try it again. And I'm just going to point out there's a lot of she's in here without me going in and highlighting them. You could very quickly do a seek and find and see how many. But there's a lot in this one paragraph. And I think it might be messing me up when I read it. And we're going to try again. On any number of occasions when Mom was commenting on my weight, hair, or if a color made me look seasick, you could have interjected. When she reminded me how she wished I was never born, your countering, but I'm so glad you were, would have softened the pain. And when she expressed she wished she'd have married her college boyfriend instead of you, I would have loved to see you stand up for yourself. Go find him. I don't care because we're through. This would have role modeled a very different message from what I witnessed. At the very least, you could have told her to go to bed. You loved me. You didn't protect me. Both statements are true. I carried them both with me, intertwined like the vines sprawled across the sound buffers, transitioning from green to red. Okay, stunning way to wrap that up. Absolutely beautiful. Love it. Love the re-reference back at the coming full circle there. I love it. Okay, your voice is excellent. It's beautiful. If my reader musings of kind of how I'm left feeling like it, and honestly, kind of by the end, you were kind of saying what I was feeling as the reader, in my opinion. Now, you can take my musings and see if they fit. I kind of feel like you've further concluded what my reader sensation was as I was experiencing the letter. So it was that he was there. He loved you in whatever capacity that was, in his mind, he really loved you, whatever that capacity was. Maybe that's every person and every person's circumstances and every person's story is so unique, but he loved you. We're going to agree with that. You said it yourself, but he did nothing. And you said that too. And so as I'm reading it and I'm reading the journey in the passage, I have the sensation of you being like a shadow alongside him and even pleading to him for help and him doing nothing. And that sensation is lonely in itself, because like it seems like sometimes it feels like you were right beside him. Like I can envision a child in the car beside their father and saying, hey, let's choose a different path, and him choosing to stay the course, probably because it was the easiest thing to do. And then when he left, leaving you behind was the easiest thing to do for him. So those are my reader impressions, the reader sensations. As always, your voice is stunning. It reads very, very clean. I have very few suggestions in here. If my reader musings align with your goals, then that'll be still be helpful to you. And I'm going to move on to do a read for chapter 10. So guys, I will see you next time for chapter 10, or just next time on Mystery Read Reads. Thank you for joining me, and until then,